Good afternoon, everyone. This is another episode of Sobering Truths where we seek to lower the opinion of alcohol in the court of public opinion. And with me is my co host, Bob Hester. Hello, Bob.
Good afternoon, Joyce. Good to see you.
Good to see you. And it's that time of year again where the crazy spring breakers are drinking and causing havoc, and it's really sad. Some of them are going to die. Parents are going to bury their children, and there was no need for that to happen. And Bob wrote about it in his book. He has a lot of statistics, and he wanted to mention that right now.
We want to remind everybody that I have this little booklet. It's I forgot how many pages, about 12 pages. It's called "The Cost of Alcohol: The High Cost of Getting High." It's some people when I show it to them, they think, "Well, I don't drink, so I don't need it." It's basically for people who don't drink to let them know how much it's costing them for those people who do drink, and we want to give this free to anyone who would call in and ask for it, free to every family and every church that would contact us. Anybody that's interested in this, we would like to see that you get it. And everybody, I honestly say everybody ought to be interested in this, because it really lays out how alcohol is connected to so many things. And of course, we'll be talking about the spring breakers, and that's pretty much a 100% alcohol thing. But it shows, our booklet here shows how alcohol is connected to suicide. It's the number one gateway drug, connected to child abuse, youth in different ways, college students, which we'll be touching on today quite a bit, divorce and family, breakups, health, pregnancy, crime, alcohol in prisons, and driving and poverty. It's connected to so many different things and costing us so much in society. Matter of fact, I will give this stat again. According to CDC, it's costing every man, woman, and child in America over $800 every year. In other words, they come to your house, they give me $800. Next year, they come to your house, give me $800, and that's in the way of taxes and things to take care of the problems created by alcohol. Now, if you take that $800 and consider that there's four in your family, that's every man, woman, and child, you might consider that multiplying that by four. And I know that might not necessarily be exactly 100% true. And some areas of the country are different than others, but that's the average. So at a minimum, a person is paying $800, and if it's a family, they may be paying a lot more than that. And then you got to consider the fact that a lot of people, quite a few people, do not pay taxes if they're maybe retired or freeloaders or whatever they are. So it's probably way more than $800 that costs every man, woman, and child in America to pay for the consequences of alcohol. And so we want to see that anyone and everyone gets a copy of this little booklet if you would just call in at 870-910-0464 and request it. Again, if you want one for every member of your church or every family in your church, whoever, just let us know, and we'll do our best to get them to you and see that you can use them to educate your people on the consequences of this alcohol and just how bad it is, which I'm convinced that most people don't really have a clue how bad it is. I've been calling it a crisis for probably a couple of years, and I didn't realize till just recently that some of these other health organizations and that type of thing have been calling it a crisis also. So I think I'm correct in calling it a crisis. I would say it was started out calling it an unacknowledged national crisis. But I think there are many people beginning to realize now that it is a national crisis and being acknowledged more. But we want to educate you, the public, on how bad this is. I cannot emphasize how strongly I'm convinced that most people do not know how bad this is. And hopefully that's the reason why not much is being done about it, because if people do know and then they don't do anything, we'll have to give a couple of quotes. Silence is consent. That was from Plato. All that's necessary for evil to triumph is good men do nothing, as Edmund Burke. And so One more, Albert Einstein. The world is not dangerous because of those who do harm, but because of those who look at it without doing anything. That was Albert Einstein. So we're here for a purpose. We're here to educate the people, and that's the main, our primary purpose, the main thing we want to do, and then encourage people to try to do something about it. And there are things that can be done, and we'll cover those in future podcasts. But today we're going to talk about what Joyce just said, the spring breakers in Florida, and how that's such a chaotic thing, and because of one reason, alcohol. And there are other things that get involved, other kinds of drugs and that type of thing, but it's basically an alcohol problem. That's where it starts.
It is, Bob, and it's like a rite of passage, that, maybe some of these parents, maybe not, but maybe some of them might say, well, I did it when I was younger, and it, my boy, to be a man or, show they're grown up, they can drink now. And that's a big thing for them. But as I was talking to a friend the other day, she said she remembers in high school people would come in and say, oh, I got drunk last weekend, I threw up, how fun is that? I never have understood the charm or the draw of alcohol. It's causes cancer. We know it causes 7 kinds of cancer. We know that it's a neurotoxin. We know that it messes with your brain. And you can just tell by looking at people that have drank for years, you can tell that they don't look healthy.
The sad thing about it is this, which leads to a lot of this, is because of the acceptance of alcohol as being okay. Anytime you have a culture of anything, and right now we have a culture of alcohol, people kind of look at you strange if you mention how bad it is or opposed to alcohol sales or something like that. They kind of, you can tell by the way they look, they think you're a little bit silly. But so we have a culture of alcohol, and it's so promoted in every way you turn. TV and radio ads, newspaper ads, magazine ads, promoted through TV and movie programs.
Yes.
No wonder these young people who are not, the brain's not fully developed, are susceptible to this when it hits them from every direction. I mean, we ought to be up in arms to try to stop this from these young people. As you said, some are going to die, and some are going to end up pregnant, back home, and they're, have to deal with that situation. Other health issues, whatever, coming from this. And this is just one aspect of it, but this is the one that we kind of want to cover today because this is the spring break season, and people are down there by the droves, and the situation is kind of changing when these cities first welcomed this and thought they were doing good because they look at the money,
Yeah, it's always the money.
Always the money. And, well, they find out that's not such a good thing anymore because the consequences are not worth it. And so they're changing.
Right. Well, I'm going to pull up a story here about it's called State of Emergency Issued After Rowdy Spring Breakers Turn Beach Towns into War Zones Fueled by Drugs and Violence. And I just wanted to read a little bit of it for our friends that are not watching, but they're on, they listen to us on podcast. Spring break chaos has pushed officials, and by the way, this is from the U.S. Sun. Spring break chaos has pushed officials into declaring a state of emergency as partying crowds sparked violence, drug busts, and mass arrests. The crackdown has brought curfews together, tougher enforcement, and warnings that out-of-control gatherings will not be tolerated. See, there they are on the beach. Florida beach towns have declared emergency measures and ramped up arrests. I mean, this shouldn't be this way. This is not fun.
It's a disaster, really. I mean, again, there are consequences. the consequences while it's happening, the extra law enforcement, all the things that they have to do to take care of these, but the consequences are lasting for some of these kids, and that is sad.
It really is.
It just don't end when spring break's over with. There are all kinds of consequences. Many of these are going to have to suffer after that. But let me give you just a little bit of history on how this thing started. It began as an escape for college swimmers. Spring break in Florida began in 1930s with a significant turning point in 38 when a college university swim coach brought his team to Fort Lauderdale for training, establishing an annual tradition that grew into a massive cultural phenomenon by the 1960s, cemented by the movie Where the Boys Are. And that's, of course, the Hollywood influence. Naturally, the worst influence you can have. So it was not started for what they do now. It was started for the first people involved were there to do something productive. But then the media got involved, and these swimmers would go back to their colleges or whatever and talk about how good the weather was and everything like that. So it started encouraging people to come down there, and then of course, because of the alcohol, it just got way out of hand, which things always do. As you know, I always say you take a good situation and you put alcohol with it, you create a bad situation.
Every time, without exception. And if you take a bad situation and put alcohol with it, you have created a real monster, a very serious problem. And so there's no good could ever come from it, but this didn't start out that way, and then it has become progressively worse to the point where these cities are making crackdowns on these things. Like Fort Lauderdale, Miami Beach, Panama Beach, all these places are having to do things to curtail this violence and all this stuff. It's destroying their nice beaches and communities because of all the things that they do down there when they're there. The dangerous things to do, the vulgar things that they do, like twerking. That's a vulgar dance that they do right out in the open that they've been arresting people for and that type of thing. But with these recent crackdowns in Florida, it seems the breaking up with the popular pastime of spring break. So they're breaking up because of it's not worth it to them. No.
It's not worth it to these cities anymore. It costs them more than it's worth to them. And alcohol will always cost you more than it will ever bring in. There's nothing good comes from it, and it'll always cost the taxpayer money. That's like we mentioned earlier. And so these people that want all this alcohol in spite of the way people voted.
Right, like in Arkansas. In Craighead County.
In Jonesboro, Arkansas. And that's just here. We know this if you're watching or listening from some other part of the country. Same thing. The alcohol people always not seem to get their way. They basically always get their way. That's why we're here right now. When you got alcohol, I mentioned the influence. Then you got the alcohol sold even in dry counties in restaurants, and then in the wet counties, every convenience store, grocery store, anybody that wants to sell it, dollar stores can sell it. And so it's promoted, encouraged everywhere you go. The young people see it, and they're going to say, there can't be anything wrong with it when it's so prevalent, and nobody says anything about it.
Yeah.
So it's got to be okay.
It's a big joke, ha, ha, ha.
Yeah,
I got drunk last night.
What do you mean? What's the big deal with it? But anyway, it's this. Back in 1934, after this started, this guy from Michigan, a professor from Michigan College, New York's Colgate University, but I think this was I thought that was in Michigan. Anyway, he wrote this book, and in this book ultimately was renamed, I forgot what the name was, but Where the Boys Are. And then a couple years after that, they made a movie, and so that really started bringing them in down there. And he was a Michigan State University professor. And what he did, he followed the students down to Fort Lauderdale over their Easter break so he could observe the debaucherous rituals he'd heard about. So he'd heard about what was going on now, so he went to check it out, and he wrote this book. And then, of course, they made a movie about it and just promoted,
more of it.
Basically promoted the thing, and encouraged these young, again, when the brains are not fully developed, to go down there and partake of that. And within a few years, the number of college students going to Fort Lauderdale went from 20,000 to 50,000. And what did the local bars do? They began offering cheap, all-you-can-drink specials. Just
They probably didn't check very many IDs either.
I would bet on it. Just absolutely, just make it easy for them to get drunk and harm themselves, just so they could make money. And so by the end of the 80s, as many as 350,000 students flooded into the 145,000 person city of Fort Lauderdale. I mean, that's more than double that, on maybe 3 times as much. And now that led the mayor to pass tougher drinking laws and encourage partiers to go elsewhere. So they're passing laws to try to discourage them from coming there and go elsewhere. And so they did. That was like the first where it started, basically. And then it went on to Miami Beach and again Panama City and that sort of thing, and just spread. And all these places are having problems with them and having to spend extra money to corral them, to put them. I've got some numbers here about the number of people that you may have that on one of your things there. I thought I put that in with, but anyway, there was right here. This was in Miami Beach. Well, let's go back up here. Some Florida destinations are now saying enough is enough, and that's all the places has been having trouble. And Florida's governor Ron DeSantis said 17 local law enforcement agencies from across the state had requested state assistance over the spring break period, with 60 state troopers bound for South Florida, predominantly Miami Beach. So they're spending lots of money, lots of manpower to deal with these situations. And so Miami Beach is basically sending a very clear message this year that the city is no longer a place for criminal activity and raucous behavior, with its new Miami Beach is breaking up with spring break campaign. Miami Beach is breaking up with spring break campaign. And Miami is fed up with the lawless behavior and string of violent acts in recent years, so city leaders are implementing tough new measures aimed at putting an end to the spring break. So here's 2 people were killed, and again, you probably got some several articles there maybe, but 2 people were killed during separate shootings in Miami Beach in March of 2023, and between 27th of February and April 2nd in 2023, there were 573 arrests made. I guess it was the mayor calling the arrests a huge and costly stress on city resources.
Yeah.
So they're shifting their focus down from trying to get rid of these kids to family-oriented things because they're when they leave, the place is destroyed. I mean, they tear up motels, they vomit in the rooms and all that sort of thing, all kind of terrible things that result from this. But it's coming home to bite them now.
It is. And in Daytona Beach, this is in that article I was referring to, they're about an hour northeast of Orlando. City leaders approved a 7-day overnight curfew for minors. What are minors doing? They're not college. After unsanctioned spring break takeovers overwhelm police. So they're overwhelming the police. And it said the curfew applies to kids 17 and younger from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. inside the city's special event zone. And Police Chief Jakari Young made clear the city is fed up with the scene, and says Daytona Beach should no longer position itself as a spring break destination. Young said, and it sounds like they're fed up. I would have been a long time ago. And he says it is not a decision against tourism, but a decision against unsanctioned high-risk activity that strains resources, disrupts our community, and places unnecessary demands on public safety personnel. And it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's chaos is what it is.
Absolutely. I read one story where they're actually raised the drinking limit to age 23 for out-of-towners. So people if they come in from New York or Arkansas or wherever, anyway, out of town, they can only drink if they're 23 years old, which is good. But they're having to do these things just to stop it.
I know.
And once it gets rolling, it's hard to stop it.
They showed that they can't handle it and show out, and It shouldn't be pushed on them, for one thing. And, the brain doesn't totally develop until around 25. So why can they drink at 21 when they can't handle it?
Yeah.
And here's another one right here that I've got pulled up. It's showing the spring breaker beating and brawl outside Fort Lauderdale Bar while video shows. So you can see it there, where they were beating on this guy. And I think one fell and hit his head. It says a violent brawl erupted outside a bar in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, overnight. And this was written March 18th of 2026. As spring breakers were caught on camera wreaking havoc in the streets. Wild video captured by the Post showed the moment half a dozen teens started beating a male outside the Dicey Riley's Irish pub early Wednesday as St. Patrick's Day shenanigans descended into chaos. The mob could be seen kicking one male wearing a dark-colored shirt to the ground and repeatedly landing punches at about 3 a.m. as a crowd of revelers watched. And see, there's the person's laying on the ground, and there's another one. I mean, how would you feel if that were your child? And please don't go and say the "it can't happen to me" crowd, because it can very well happen to you and your family.
Well, I have to consider the parents in some of these situations. Now, some of them, I know you don't always know what your kids are doing, but
Right.
somebody is not having a serious talk with somebody about alcohol and things when those kids that many kids end up down there. There's a lot of people that, actually, I personally think that there ought to be a class in high school and college about alcohol.
Yeah, I think they ought to show wreckage,
absolutely.
footage,
So
and
everything.
gross
Every year
stuff.
if they will show it in high school
Graphic.
and in college, there ought to be mandatory class in college. I mean, there's some mandatory stuff that you have to take. I think that would be important to have, because, again, you have everything showing these young people that it's okay and it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, when you promote it in every way you turn, it is promoted. And, some people say, we'll call it, well, it's a disease. Do you know any other disease that we're encouraging people to get?
Yeah.
We're doing everything we do to encourage people to do what it takes to get this disease.
And it's like a war against the young people. It really is.
Really, yeah, older people, they're not as easy to influence, and a lot of them stop after they get older, stop drinking, but a lot of them don't, because they're hooked and they become alcoholic, and then it's hard to stop that. I mean, the recidivism rate, if that's the right word to use, in rehab, the rehab success rate is not that great.
Right.
And so, we go through try to get them to go through rehab. Well, why don't we? Why? I mean, would it not be logical to try to prevent this stuff up front rather than try to deal with it on the back?
Absolutely.
If you got a car and your brakes are not very good, wouldn't it be smart to get your brakes fixed rather than, I'll get my car, if after I have a wreck, I'll get my car fixed.
Yeah.
No, if you got any sense at all, you'll get them brakes fixed. Well,
right.
We need to get the brakes fixed on this stuff, and we need to start doing things we can do to control it. And there, again, a lot of people don't think so. They look at prohibition and say, well, prohibition was a failure, which it was not the failure that they say. It didn't succeed in everything, but there was reason for that. People who were in charge of it and supposed to enforce it were too immoral to do that. So there are things that people can do, and we will be relating those from time to time. One thing is people I don't think they can in Missouri, but a lot of states, Texas, Arkansas, and maybe most states, can vote their counties dry. They can vote to not have alcohol sold in their counties, and they also, in Arkansas, you can vote not to have it sold in your precinct, your ward, your municipality, any voting district. No matter how small, you can vote whether you want that there or not. And the further away you have alcohol from you, the better off you are by
right.
far. Nobody. There's article I have that shows the how much more crime there is around areas where package stores are sold, and package stores where alcohol is sold. And so there's a direct correlation to all that. And the closer it is to you, the more it's going to affect you, negatively affect you and your family. And we don't want that. We don't want people to be hurt. We don't want these young
No.
people that are going down there. We care for them. We don't want to put them down. The things that we're doing is bringing attention to this is to help them,
Right.
help them see that they don't have to do this and that they can. There's something much better. Matter of fact, let's just say it. There's something much better. It's Jesus Christ. These folks,
Amen.
these young people need Jesus Christ. He'll satisfy all their needs, the deepest needs, whatever. And so we encourage people that direction. But in the meantime, we need to do some things to quit promoting this death in a bottle, as they used to call it.
And I want to call out the parents. I know some of them, like you said, the kids will, you know, hide what they're doing, pull the wool over their eyes. But parents, if you're promoting your teenager to drink, thinking that's a great thing, please stop. Please stop. Stop drinking yourself. Stop making it an example for them to follow, because they will follow it. And you don't want to be burying your child like this one young man. I'm pulling it up right here. He was 22 years old, and he was on a twerking on the top of a moving SUV, and he got flung. The guy driving, he was 24, and he got slung out off of there and had horrific head injuries, and he died in a few days.
Did he die?
Yeah, he died, and it was caught on video. Here's the guy that was drunk. He was driving the vehicle allegedly, and it was in Port Aransas, Texas, and it says 22-year-old Michael Brown suffered a fatal head injury and passed away on Friday. And this article was written, let's see, March 26th. What is today, Bob?
27th, I believe.
27th. And said 22-year-old Michael Brown suffered a fatal head injury and passed away on Friday, according to local reports. There was no need of this. The parents, grandparents, it's affected. I mean, this was all preventable. And here's, I'm going to play a little of the video here. He was twerking, and the guy driving the vehicle, allegedly, he hit another vehicle, and see, there's the kid standing out there, and that were in, and then there, right there is where they're working with the boy that got hurt. So this is a terrible tragedy, and kids do stupid things, but alcohol causes them to do even more stupid things.
And Joyce, I think you hit it. Stop. If you're an adult, stop drinking. If you're not an alcoholic, you can quit your social drinking or whatever, because that sends a message that it's okay, that alcohol's okay. And your child, you may not be an alcoholic, but your child's think. The only way to not become an alcoholic is not take that first drink.
Right.
That's the only way you can know for sure that you won't become an alcoholic. So if a parent drinks and they just social and they don't become a drink, their child may become an alcoholic. And so they need to stop drinking, and then they need to have a talk, and they need to learn some things that's in our little booklet, and learn about alcohol and how bad it is, and share those. And I was talking to a gentleman yesterday and about this stuff, and he said his kids, they talked to him. They talked to him about, they didn't drink themselves, and they talked to him about alcohol, so they never had a problem with it.
Yeah.
Because they let them know whatever they was they needed to know. I don't know exactly what it said, but you know, there's a lot you can say about it. But the main thing is just discourage them from doing it, make them know that it's going to hurt them in the long run, and could destroy them. As a matter of fact, and when you have 1 in 8, according to CDC, an estimate, 1 in 8 adult alcoholics, 1 in 8 adults are alcoholics, according to CDC. And again, this is just an estimation. You've got a problem. I mean, you have a problem. I did not believe that number, and again, I don't know this 100% true, but when I heard it, I don't know if I could believe that or not. It was so incredible that there's that many alcoholics. But then I got to counting up the alcoholics, family members, friends, neighbors, just people I know of. And I thought, I believe I can believe this. It's
Yeah.
amazing if you start counting up, and there's a lot of people that they're maybe hidden alcoholics. They're alcoholics, but you don't know it. But these are just ones that I knew, and I still every once in a while think of another one. And it's amazing how many people are alcoholics, and this is incredible. This has to stop, folks. We have to do something about it, and that's what we're about. And we would like for you to join us to. If you wanted to be on a mailing list and get our newsletter, you could give this, again, call this number 870-910-0464 and get this booklet and get as many as you want. We'll supply as many as you want. To give, I think this booklet ought to be given to every graduating senior and from high school, and every school in the nation. And if we could do it, if we got donations, whatever we could do it, we would supply them. We print these in house, but if we had enough requests for them, then we'd probably have to have them done outside. But we need to get a handle on this and do something, because it is a crisis. I don't, regardless of somebody watching this program say, well, it's not a crisis. Well, it is. No matter what you think, it is a crisis, and we're gonna have to deal with it one way or the other.
If you don't have to deal with an alcoholic, consider yourself lucky. But it touches everybody's life. You know,
Everybody.
everybody's life, whether the taxes, extra taxes you have to pay, extra health premiums, health insurance premiums. Um, you could be going down the road innocently one day, get hit by a drunk driver. Um, just think about it, and it does affect you. And we're going to keep pounding on this because we know it is true. We know it's true. And there's another story that I think you touched on, Bob, about these Florida towns. This is Miami Beach mayor says crackdown on spring break chaos has tourism booming once again. And I think that's him right there. Let me play that if it'll. Well, if we can.
Got your commercial.
Yeah, that's a commercial. Get past that. Okay, I think here it comes. Yeah. Yeah, it's showing the brawlers again at Daytona Beach.
Yep.
Money.
Yes.
Yep. That's great. Well, I like that Law and Order mayor.
That's absolutely well. That's just typical. That's perfect example. You bring alcohol in, people want it. That's one thing they used at the ABC board, Arkansas ABC board, was uh, economic development.
Yeah.
I've challenged and I challenge right now anybody show me any place on earth where alcohol has been a good economic development tool. It does the opposite. They thought it was going to, and they make some money for a while, and then the consequences came, and that's what it is. It may appear to be okay, and I challenge the people in Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is my hometown, to the government officials, leaders, to understand that what they're doing, flooding this town with alcohol, contrary to the people's will, is not going to pay off in the long run.
No.
It continues to develop that culture of alcohol, and down the road, you're going to see additional consequences. And one other thing, Iris, you mentioned this story about Texas. Well, when they're running these people, basically running them out of Florida, their party, then they're trying to find other places
Yeah.
to go, and which they will do their best, but those places will have to do the same thing. But this economic development thing, I've got this booklet here, and it shows the growth between the wet and dry counties, and I won't get into it today. We'll get into it in another program. How the dry counties grew better or more than the wet counties did, and that there's full proof that anywhere you look, when you look at the facts, that dry is better, no alcohol is better, and it leads to growth. And I challenge anybody again anywhere to show me the opposite of that.
And to me, it's not being a good leader. You're not a good
No,
moral leader if
no.
you are saying that, hey, let's just kind of wink and nod at these drunks and all this crime, and just for the money to come
Just a
in.
little tax dollar we're going to get
Yeah.
from this. We're willing to let people be killed, and there have been people, several, 2 or 3 there in Jonesboro, Arkansas, and killed just for a few bucks. What's a life worth?
Right. I have no respect for our leaders in Jonesboro that
none.
are for the alcohol.
None, not an iota.
And if they want to challenge me on that, I want you to stand up in public and tell me what is good about alcohol.
Right.
And don't say money, because we've just laid out where people get hurt, get killed.
Prove that's not true.
That is not true. So, Bob, do you have anything else?
No, I think we covered some things pretty good today, and hopefully people have learned some things. But again, we want to emphasize that we want to get this little 10 or 12 page booklet out to anybody that would like it. It'd thrill our soul to get some calls and say, hey, we want some copies of that book. So if you would call again, 870-910-0464, and ask for me, Bob Hester, and we'll see that you get those.
All right. Well, until next time, we'll just sign off and thank you for watching and listening.
Well, did we do okay?